What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of the climbing series. In today's episode, we're going to get the initial setup done for the system. I decided to do something a little different with the climbing in this series. We're going to work on a ledge climbing system instead of just wall climbing. I decided to do it this way because what we go over in this series can be applied to implement wall climbing also, so I figured we'll go ahead and do the more complicated stuff first, and then you guys can take the stuff that you learned in this series and be able to apply that to add wall climbing in if you want to do that. If you have any questions, they can be asked on the community Discord. The link is in the description. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right. First thing we want to do is create a new folder in our content folder. Just go into your content folder. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this ledge climbing system. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color on this. Change it to red so that I know that that's what that is. Go ahead and open up that folder. And then we want to create a blueprint class. So blueprint class, we're going to add a actor component. And we're going to name that blueprint component. So BPC underscore ledge climbing. And then let's go ahead and open up our third person character and get that added in there. You can go ahead and open up that component if you want. We're going to need that anyway. Just go ahead and get that opened up. Then we're going to open up our third person character blueprint. All right. So not going to need the camera lock right now. Move this out of the way for now. If you've still got that hooked up, just go ahead and connect the output pin to that so that you can add this on the end of it, or you can add a sequence before your event tick or after your delta seconds if you want. So let's see here. So we're going to add this to our character. So click on the add up here in the components panel. And we're going to type BPC, and that should bring up BPC lead climbing. Let's go ahead and add that. All right, and then go back to your ledge climbing component, your BPC ledge climbing, and under our event begin play, we're going to get owner. And then from event begin play, cast to TP or BP third person character. Go ahead, connect that get owner to the object. And we're going to right click as BP third person, promote to a variable. And we're going to rename this owning character ref for character reference. And then from our owning character reference, we're going to drag off. We're going to get movement. Get character movement, sorry. And that's probably going to be at the bottom. Yeah, you have to scroll all the way down, get character movement. And then we're going to promote that to a variable also. Call this owning character movement. Go ahead and connect this, our owning character reference. And then from our owning character reference, we're going to drag off again. Get capsule component, should be down at the bottom. We're going to do the same thing, promote to a variable. We're going to call this owning owning character capsule. we're going to connect that also. And then from our character reference again, we're going to get mesh, promote that to a variable also. Call this owning character mesh. And then we're going to get our owning character mesh. We're going to get anim instance. We're going to promote this to a variable as well and call this owning character anim ref. Go ahead and connect that. All right, and then we're going to highlight all these. We're going to right click and collapse nodes. And then we're going to name this setting owning character references. I'm going to go ahead and change the color on this. Change that to blue just so I know that that's different. And then we're going to open this up. We're going to go ahead and add output to that. Get this stuff cleaned up a little. Go ahead and compile and save that. Hit your back button. Now we should have an output there. All right, so now we need to go back to our ledge climbing system folder. We're going to right click and we're going to create a blueprint enumeration. Name this E climbing states. Go ahead and open that up. We're going to need 10 total enumerators. So just go ahead and add these in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you should have enumerator 0 all the way to enumerator 9 is what should be showing up. And then we're going to go ahead and rename these. First one's going to be none. Second one we're going to name walking. And this is just going to, this enumerator is going to switch between our states for us. It's going to make it a little bit easier. If you guys followed the grapple hook system tutorial, some of this is going to look familiar to you. We did a lot of this stuff in that series also. Hanging, jumping. Type today. Falling. Flying. Mantling. And vaulting. Let's save that, and you can close that. We're not going to need that anymore. Now let's go to our third person character event graph. Okay, so we need to create a variable. We're going to call this climbing states. And we're going to change this from a Boolean to E climbing states, and that's going to change that to our enumeration. From our event tick, is where we're going to add the code in. First, we need to create a function, though. Okay, no, let's go ahead and get that set up first. So get your climbing states. So get climbing states. And then off of here, we're going to do switch. And we're going to switch on E combat state. Go ahead and connect that to your event tick, delta seconds, or your camera lock, whatever you've got there. Okay, and then we need to create a function, and we're going to call this update climbing state. And we're going to set our climbing states. So grab your climbing states, hold Alt, drop that down, and then from our climbing states, we're going to drag off to the update climbing states so that that sets a pin there. And you can compile and save that. Now we need to communicate the climbing state changes with our animation blueprint. So we're going to create a blueprint interface in the systems folder. So right click, blueprint interface. And we're going to call this BPI for blueprint interface _ update climbing state. We're going to open that up. We're going to add an input. Input we're going to call state. And then we're going to change this bool to the E climbing states again. I hate when it does that. Make sure that it actually changes it. Sometimes it does not. All right, so our E climbing states. Go ahead and compile and save that. And then let's open up our animation blueprint. So our blueprints folder, our animation blueprint, we're going to go to class settings. We're going to add this interface to the class settings. So in your detail panels, down here where it says interfaces, implement interfaces, type BPI, and that should bring up update climbing state. And you can go ahead and compile and save that. On your left panel over here, why did that name that new function instead of update climbing state? That's weird. Oh, that's why. Okay, so go back to your update climbing state. We forgot to change the name on this. So update climbing state. And then you can compile and save that. And then that should be update climbing state now. So double click that. That'll take us to where our event is. And we're going to promote this pin. And we're going to call this state. And you can go ahead and compile and save that. We're going to go back to our third person character. Update climbing state function here is where we need to be at. So we want to get our mesh, get the mesh, get anim instance. Down here. And we're going to update climbing state message is what we want. Actually, I could have just left those up there. And then we're going to drag from our climbing state pin to the state pin. Compile and save that. All right, so let's go back to our event graph. We're going to go ahead and add some print strings just to make sure that everything is working correctly. First, what we want to do is from our forward input here, we want to drag off our update climbing state. And this is going to be our walking state. So if we're not running, it goes into false, side input, forward input. So we're going to change this state to walking. And you can go ahead and duplicate that if you want. And you can connect that to our forward input on the completed. And that's going to put us into none. And then that go. I hate when that does that. Right click, find reference. Okay. Then for walking, we're going to add print string. So in your third person character event graph where we connect it to the event tick, and we're going to change this to walking from third person character, so TPC, just make it simple. And then our animation blueprint, okay, so this one we can just add after our turn in place here if you have the turn in place. If you do not, just add a sequence in here so that you can connect it to the sequence. What we're going to do is we're going to get our climbing state. We're going to switch again, switch on E climbing states. Let's just go ahead and add another pin just to be safe. And we'll just connect it to that other pin. And then from here, we're going to add a print string. Walking from anim BP. You can change the color of this one just so we can have different colors. Tell the difference. Okay, and then our climbing component, so BPC ledge climbing. Okay, and then this one. All right, so in our BPC ledge climbing, our component, we're going to add in at our event tick. We're going to get our owning character reference. So owning character reference. Get climbing states. And then from climbing states, we're going to do switch, E switch on combat states. And we're going to connect that to our event tick. And then we're going to add a print string off of our walking here also. Print string. We're going to call this one walking from component. And we're going to change the color of this one too. We'll make this one green. Go ahead and compile and save. And now we can test that out, just make sure everything's showing up. So when we move, so walking from component, walking from third person character, walking from anim BP, all those should be showing up on the left side from your print strings. The none's not going to show up because we didn't add a print string to the none. But if you did add a print string to the none also, that would show up when we go into idle. So everything's working correctly as far as our movement states are showing up, that they're switching between the component, the third person character, and the anim BP. So as long as that's working, we are good to go there. So we need to go back to our third person character. We're just gonna kind of clean this stuff up a little bit. So this we can go ahead and get rid of. We don't need that. We're gonna get rid of this, and we're gonna get rid of this. Go ahead and compile and save. And then go back to our anim BP. And we're going to go ahead and delete this. Only reason we added those in is so that we could test it, just to make sure that everything's switching the way that it needs to. So I prefer it to be working now and not get into the next episode and start adding stuff in and then the states aren't changing correctly. So that's why we're doing that. It's just so we can make sure everything is working correctly the way it needs to. Just a short little test before we get to the final stuff here. So we need to delete that, and we need to go back to our ledge climbing system folder. We're going to add a blueprint structure. So right click, go to blueprint structure, and we're going to name this S climbing state. Go ahead and open that up, and we're going to add some variables in here. So we're going to need 4 different variables. So we've got one already, 2, 3, and 4. We'll name the first one can climb on ledge. Second one can climb up ledge. Next one's going to be drop down. And the last one is going to be high mantle. Save that and close that. And let's go to our BPC ledge climbing. We're going to add a variable. We're going to call it climbing state. And we're going to change that to S underscore climbing state. So this one's going to use our structure. And then go ahead and compile and save that. And you can delete this. I don't need that now. And then in our animation blueprint, where we've got our event climbing state, go ahead and copy that and delete it. And we're just going to make a new graph, and we're going to call it interface graph. And then go ahead and open that up and paste that in there, compile and save. And then we're going to highlight those, comment that, update climbing state. We're going to compile and save that. Close that out. And that is it. We're going to wrap up the episode for today. Next episode, we're going to start doing our wall traces, our line traces for the wall, capsule traces, and get all that stuff set up. We're not going to be doing any animation stuff quite yet. We're just going to get the basic coding set up for the system. And then once we get that done, we'll start adding the animations in. I want to get the most difficult stuff out of the way first, and then we can add the animations in and adjust things at that point. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the Discord. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.